Welcome back to the Plus Money Podcast, your home for the best soccer bets in 15 minutes or less. We are halfway to the Champions League quarterfinals, and we have another classic to look forward to in the Premier League this weekend when Liverpool host Manchester City at Anfield on Sunday. I'm Andrew Passaro. He's Ani Sridhar, and we are walking wounded after a rough midweek in the Champions League. That being said, Real Madrid plus 900, that ticket still alive. Manchester City maybe on a potential back-to-back run right now. They look somewhat inevitable. Bayern Munich, are they back? Are they not? Are Lazio just frauds? Lots of questions, lots to discuss. Ani, let's jump right into it. I'm going to Friday, and we talked about the Champions League. There's two Champions League clubs playing on Friday afternoon. Napoli are taking on Torino, Barcelona taking on Mallorca. I love both teams to score in Napoli versus Torino. It's at plus 108. Napoli have conceded a goal in 7 straight games. Both teams to score has hit in 6 out of those 7. So the fact that we're getting both teams to score for a potential Napoli rotated team on Friday, I love the value there. Jumping to Barcelona, Mallorca real quick. Both teams to score here, also minus 112. Mallorca have scored in 5 straight. Both teams to score is hitting 4 out of those last 5. It's hitting 7 of the last 10 for Barcelona. You parlay those both teams to scores together for a little Friday afternoon parlay, clocking in at plus 293. Ani, I throw it to you to kick things off for the Premier League. We're talking Wolves. We're talking Fulham. I know you love Fulham right now.
Yeah, I liked them last weekend. Yeah, I told you the getting Iwobi back was huge. They found something in Rodrigo Munoz. Wolves play a lot better at home, but they've been so susceptible to the counterattack all season. I like both teams to score and the over 2.5 in this game at plus 103. I think that's crazy value. I think that should be plus. I would take that just the over 2.5, but adding the both teams to score gets you that plus money. So I love that play from that one.
Great opportunity to piggyback on that because I'm going to Palace and Luton, and let me tell you what, I love both of those same bets. I feel like
Yeah.
friend of the pod, Nick Diani, refers to this as the plus money podcast lock, the over 2.5 in both teams to score. That is our trademark bet, and we're going to be giving it out a lot today. I have a feeling. Palace taking on Luton, a London derby. The over 2.5 is at minus 125. It's hitting the last 5 Luton games. It's hitting 4 out of the last 5 Palace games. It's hitting at like a 70% clip in the Premier League on its own this season. I have to get the actual statistical data for you for next week because I have somebody that I follow that's been tweeting that out all the time. There's a ton of value on overs in the Prem this year. You add the both teams to score, it gets you up to plus 110 in those 5 straight Luton games that those both teams to score has hit. The over 2.5 and the both teams to score has hit. 3 out of the last 5 Palace games. I don't hate a sprinkle on Luton draw no bet at plus 250, potentially to get a win at Selhurst Park. Luton hung around. Luton have played quite the gauntlet. They went toe-to-toe with Aston Villa last week, losing 4-2. Before that, you played Manchester City. Before that, you played Liverpool. They hung around with Manchester United for a while. So they're playing a team that's probably a little bit closer to their pace. Could they get the win? The value at plus 250 for Luton.
I would
And
like
you
it a
get,
lot better if they were at home. Just
yeah,
playing on the
100%.
road is that's why I don't have it on my card either. Because I would have easily bet both teams to score over 2.5 if this was at Luton. I'm just a little bit hesitant on how Crystal Palace plays at home. They play with such a slow pace, but they do have Eze back, and he scored an absolute banger last weekend. So that's a big positive for that Palace offense.
What do you like from Bournemouth taking on Sheffield?
What don't I like from Bournemouth is a real question here. They're taking on arguably one of the worst teams we've seen get promoted to the Premier League in a long time. And I'm not even, Sheffield are just so bad. And defensively, it's just a nightmare. They got absolutely embarrassed last weekend against Arsenal at home. This is on the road at Bournemouth, a Bournemouth team that's been playing a lot of good football here in the second half of the season. Give me the team total for Bournemouth over 2.5 at plus 124, and give me Bournemouth team shots on goal at 7 plus at plus 110.
I will be riding with you. We introduced that one, or you introduced that one to the pod. But was that last week or the week before? That was
Yeah.
all over. I was all over that this week. Worked great on the weekend, not so much in the midweek, but it's such a great prop. We're gonna jump to another team that is cruising, and it's Arsenal. They're taking on Brentford. Arsenal have just been eviscerating teams. They are now leading the Premier League with the most goals. If the way things break out this weekend in the Premier League, that could come to their advantage. I think there's the possibility that they take the lead in the Premier League on a goal differential. We'll see. We'll talk about it later when we get to Manchester City and Liverpool. Over 3.5 goals at plus 122. I don't hate it just on the pure fact that Arsenal did that in the first half against Sheffield. They do have Porto coming up in the midweek in the Champions League. I don't expect Mikel Arteta to rotate because he doesn't know how to rotate. Um,
They're
both
also
teams
not
score
healthy enough, I guess, to do a full rotation. So
100%. Both teams to score in over 2.5 has hit in 10 of the last 13 Brentford matches. It's clocking in at plus 105. Here's another one I like a lot. Arsenal first half team total over 1.5 is at
yeah,
plus 196.
that's
And it's
great. That's awesome.
in their
Shit. I'm
last
putting that in right now. I mean, I'm typing
in
that up tonight. I'm sending
in
myself a
their
reminder.
in their last 7 EPL matches, they've done that 5 times. Plus 196.
Shit.
This Brentford defense is not good.
It's not good. Yeah. No. They're
Arsenal are
so
just
they're so leaky too. Yeah, they're so
they're
leaky.
just blasting teams out of the gate. So I love that. Yeah, we're going the two I really like the both teams are scoring over 2.5 plus 105. Arsenal team total first half over 1.5 plus 196. What do you like?
I like the Arsenal team total over 2.5 at minus 104. So pretty much they get 2 in the first half. We hit that first half bet. Just get a cheap one in the second half, and we all go home happy. Boom, there it is. Yeah, I don't hate maybe even I haven't looked at the odds, but now that we're talking about this game, maybe sprinkle a little on Tony. Anytime goal score, he does love a good London derby. So might be something to look at.
Definitely. Definitely.
And a
Aston
potential new team for Tony next season if he chooses to leave. Might want to, show his potential new team what he's got in the tank.
uh it's not a betting question, but I'll ask you right now. Would you pay 100 million for Ivan Toney or would you pay the 130 million release clause for Victor Osimhen?
I would do the 100 mil for Ivan Tony.
Okay.
I would rather have a striker who's proven himself in the Prem than take a risk on a guy who could come to the Prem and just be shit, to be quite honest.
I'm sure that has nothing to do with the fact that Victor Osimhen has been heavily linked to Stamford Bridge all for the last weeks upon weeks upon weeks. Let's jump to Sunday. A huge one for the top 4 race for the potential last Champions League spot. Aston Villa taking on Tottenham at Aston Villa. Aston Villa have a Europa Conference League game to deal with. Tottenham coming in with a full week of rest, but potentially no Richarlison, potentially no Pedro Porro. The over 3.5 is minus 104. Both teams to score an over 2.5 is minus 200.
Yeah,
That
both teams to score is minus 310,
yeah,
which is
both teams just
ridiculous.
both teams to score an over 2.5 has hit in 5 straight for both clubs. So the books have fully caught up on that.
Yep.
Um, I there's I will say the 2 things that I like in this game, I am labeling them as a sprinkle or a half unit bet. I'm not putting a full unit on either of them because it's an insane number that I'm giving out. But I like the value over. Look, I'm expecting a ton of goals. I'm expecting a potential Premier League classic, maybe a 3-3, a 4-3, something crazy. The over 4.5 is plus 235. Aston Villa and both teams to score at plus 230 is where I lean in terms of which of these 2 teams I think can get it done on the sole factor of it's at Aston Villa. And that home form is
Yes.
ridiculous. Only the 1 loss to Sheffield. They haven't been at their best of late. I do think Spurs can hang around. Maybe check in with me on Twitter at Andrew Passaro leading up to this one because maybe a first half over 1.5 if it's a good number is a play here because I do see this one getting spicy early. What do you like here?
Yeah, I've got the over, just simple over 3.5 at minus 104. I mean, Villa can't keep a clean sheet to save their lives, and neither can Tottenham. And Tottenham's not going to change the way I say it every week on the pod. The way Big Ange plays football is attack, attack, attack. Going to play a high line. Going to be exposed on the counter attack. Uh, if you need to make changes in your FPL team, I mean, get Watkins in, get Douglas Luiz in, get Son, Madison. If Porro is healthy and plays, Porro's a great play this weekend as well. So I think we're gonna see I like the over in Pool City, but I think this game, Tottenham Villa, is gonna have the most goals on the weekend. Unless Bournemouth hangs 7 on Sheffield, which is possible.
Very possible. Very possible. We thought Dom Solanke was going to be out last weekend. Turns out he wasn't. And Yeah, that game's gonna be. Sheffield should just like go, just let everyone go to the beach. Just call it a day.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump to the big one. It's Liverpool. It's Manchester City. It's 1 versus 2. Manchester City cruising to the quarterfinals in the Champions League. Erling Haaland fully back, doing his thing. They looked incredibly dangerous from set pieces today, able to rest some players. Liverpool traveling to Sparta Prague in the Europa League. We are taping this Wednesday night, so we don't know the result yet. We don't know how much they rotated the squad. We don't know who played, who didn't play. Sounds like Mo Salah is going to feature in that game on Thursday. I'm expecting about 30 minutes myself. Whether or not he'll be ready to start against Manchester City, I will say, frontline injuries aside, I do think there's enough depth on this Liverpool team to at least start with a good team against City. I think you'll be able to put out McAllister, Szoboszlai, and Endo in the midfield. The back line is pretty good. I actually like Connor Bradley taking on either of those wingers more than I like Trent. And then Van Dijk, Konate, Robertson, Kelleher's been in incredible form. So it's the front three is where I'm a little worried. Manchester City obviously cruising. Both teams to score I think is a lock. I'm personally going to take Liverpool, draw no bet at plus 122 because I'm not going to take City. I'm going to say the same thing I said the last time these two teams played. I like the draw at plus 270. The Anfield effect. Manchester City's last win at Anfield was the season that Liverpool had no center backs. So I think at a minimum, they can grind out some kind of result in this one. I'm expecting a 1-1, maybe a 2-2. Both teams to score and the draws at plus 320 if you really want to add some intensity to it. Phil Foden, anytime goal scorer, plus 290. The dude's on insane form. You got to keep it on the card. But yeah, I think City could win. And I know City money line is at plus 125, and I had people messaging me about it this week. Like, I'm going to take that. And I, if I wasn't a Liverpool fan, I'd be slamming Manchester City plus 125 right now. But that's not what I am. And if this is a tie, Arsenal win and an Arsenal win against Brentford, Arsenal will go top based on goal differential. So all these gigantic blowouts that Arteta has putting his team, setting them up for, will have paid off. What do you got?
I've got the over 3.5 at plus 124. That kind of worries me because I thought that would be in the minus range just from how these two teams have been scoring. But I guess the uncertainty with Liverpool's lineup is what's giving us plus odds on this on Wednesday night. I'm taking City plus 125 on the money line. It's not just the run of form they're in, they're healthier. They were able to rest De Bruyne, Foden, Doku. I think Ake got the day off today as well. So that's 4 key starters for them that didn't have to play at all, and they're going to be fresh to go on the weekend when Liverpool have fewer days rest. And they are already hurt. So it's
And
a double
international
whammy.
travel.
Yeah, so it's double whammy, triple whammy there for Liverpool. So I think the value's too good to take that plus 125. And then at plus 115, I'm taking a parlay of Foden shot on goal with Darwin Nunez shot on goal.
I like that. I'll put that on my card. That's going on the card.
Yeah.
Jumping back to Serie A, there's a bunch of value that I like real quick. This one's I've been talking about Bologna separately. If you've been following me on Twitter at Andrew Passaro at Ani323 at the Plus Money Pod. Bologna playing Inter. Both have won 5 straight. Inter have Atletico away in the midweek. They have a huge lead in Serie A. If there was a time to rotate, maybe this is the time. Bologna draw no bet or plus 145. They are one of a few teams to get a positive result at the San Siro this year. They have the second best home record in Italy. So again, pushes if you get the tie. So I love Bologna, draw no bet plus 145. Both teams are scoring over 2.5 is at plus 130, which I think is great value, especially with how much Inter score and Bologna score. They're two of the highest scoring teams. The over 2.5 on its own, plus 106. The over 3.5, plus 270. All of that is a sprinkle. Just there's a lot of value there. I love that. My favorite parlay piece for the weekend, Juve taking on Atalanta. Both teams to score, minus 128. Juve has given up a goal in 6 straight. Both teams to score has hit in 4 of them. And then jumping to our recent runaway hot train, Fiorentina taking on Roma. Kind of Roma's like biggest test since they played Inter a few weeks ago. Roma are plus 200 on the money line. Draw no bet plus 115. Team total over 1.5, which I've talked about. It's hitting all 7 of their Serie A matches since the Rossi took over, is plus 176. And team total over 2.5 is plus 600. It's hitting 4 out of those 7 Serie A matches. You got to roll the hot hand. And speaking of the hot hands, Paulo Dybala has scored 7 goals in his last 7 games, scoring in 4 of those, plus 220 anytime goal scorer. The dude's in probably his best form in Italy since he was wearing a Juventus kit. The dude's on fire. And another key piece, he's the penalty taker for Roma. So if Fiorentina give up that penalty, you know who's stepping up to the spot, and he's a good penalty taker. Lots of action on the board. Didn't even look at La Liga.
Lot of action.
Didn't even look at La Liga. Didn't look at Atletico this weekend. Didn't look at Atletico. Didn't look at Real Madrid, who got robbed in La Liga last weekend. And didn't even touch Leverkusen. So we have a couple more days. I'll probably shoot out some kind of crazy parlay. Get at us on Twitter and on Instagram. Oh, and shout out to one of the greatest Instagram comments we've ever gotten. I posted my Manchester City pick today, and it was Man City to win under 3.5. It was a plus 115. Someone hit me in the comments with 115 is Manchester City's favorite number. That guy wins the week. Just incredible banter. So at the Plus Money Pod, at Ani 323, at Andrew Passaro. We'll catch you next week. It's coming thick. It's coming fast. We have FA Cup quarterfinals next week. Liverpool Man United next week. It's all happening. Very excited. Just try to keep up. Try not to don't get ahead of yourself. And let's stay positive. See you guys next week.